This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good night, Chris Hutchinson. How are you doing on this wonderful, beautiful night?
Angel, I am doing wonderfully. The sun is just dipping below the mountains here in Colorado, and I'm looking forward to a beautiful evening.
That's wonderful. Well, I am glad to have this conversation with you. Do tell us which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this specific time in history.
I'd have to chalk it back to positive curiosity. I'm an applied learner. I like to learn things and make a difference in the world. And the work that I do with teams and leaders, I have a great team I work with. And our operations director, Katie Huey, said, Chris, this thing with Angel, this cool project he's doing, what do you think about it? I was very curious and said, hey, let's give it a try. Sounds fun.
And now we are connected. And the foundation of amazing technology, yeah? Like being able to be connected and hear you and I'm here. It's amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing. I remember the days of the phone calls where you had to go through 3 or 4 operators and it was hard to communicate anything. And now instantaneously we're together.
Yes, it is. It is definitely an amazing opportunity to have this conversation. So tell us a bit more about the teams you lead. How do you pronounce it? Is it Trebuchet or Trebuchet?
Well, it can be either way, depending on how you want to make sure there's a T in there. Trebuchet group. That's an ancient medieval war engine, but we're not into war. We're into helping teams that are trying to work together better and have clarity around where they're going and trust each other and work together and effectively make a significant impact. Not a negative one, but a big one.
So who did you learn that from? Like that those community elements that need to come together to create this symbiotic movement?
I really learned it, I think, from some amazing teachers in my history. I look back in 6th grade, I had a lady named Mrs. Kramer. I showed up to a class, and I had already done that book that we were covering, and she went into her closet and got some other textbooks from it. Turned out her college career and really believed in me. And just seeing the 4th and 5th, and I was a 6th grader, all together in that community, reading to the 4th graders and seeing the continuity rather than just being in my own grade, that made a big difference to me pretty early on. Yeah.
I'm glad that you reflected on that, which means you do go back on these memories rather often, yeah?
I do. It's interesting. I think it helps me see patterns and connect the past to the present and then perhaps potentially see what's in the future, not as a way to hold myself down, but to see a platform upon which I can see new possibilities.
Why will you continue to be that person?
I almost don't see how I couldn't. It's sort of this drive for me to figure out how can I help others? What's happening here? What's sort of a condition that maybe is just occurred to us all, and we can overcome it if we're aware of it and figure out how can we harness this for good.
So how do you work with teams that require your assistance?
Usually it's around trying to help them figure out what are we really doing together, because most teams that I've worked with and been part of, everybody has a picture in their head of where we're going, and the pictures don't match, but we believe they do. And so people are actually pulling apart, and they can, if they were rowing, and they could actually row the ship into, split in half. And once we have a really great conversation about what's really important for the future and for now and for me and you and our clients and our families, we put those on a table. There's a lot of commonality, and we all know where we're going then, and we all row in the same direction.
I'm guessing you have a tool belt that's the size of the equator with the experience I've seen.
It's an invisible tool belt, because if I threw it all on the table, everybody said, well, you can't do that, and it's scary, right? We only pull out the tools that we need. But it's pretty neat to try new things, and I think that drives me throughout my life is what could we try here? How could it be better in a way that deeply respects everybody who's involved?
How has the application of the tools you used on the previous generation been where you use them on the new generation?
I think one of the most important things is really understanding what are people's needs, and a lot of times people's needs show up as a desire, like a want in front of them. The need is usually below or behind or beneath the immediate want, and I think everybody has those. Some, I think, in a newer generation are more willing to go for the want, or sometimes they might be saying, well, it's in there, but I'm just going to put the need on the table. So having everybody being willing to set aside their wants and share their needs, it's scary. And it's very empowering, and it kind of cuts across those generations, I think, better than just hearing the surface issues.
Love that. Ooh. Chris, tell us one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years, please.
I think that I've continued to put myself out of my comfort zone. I know it's kind of trendy to say, well, you're not going to grow. But really getting into places where I'm forcing myself to improvise, I'm forcing myself to not just imagine, oh, this is like what I did the last 3 times, I'll just do the same thing, but really honoring the people there, and how could I possibly creatively meet everyone's needs at the same time, including mine. And by doing that continuously, it's exhilarating and it's terrifying, and it's also very exciting because it's easier to see and feel the patterns of how, when people get together, what works and what might not work.
Yeah, it's exhilarating, isn't it?
It's totally.
So I practically took your answer because it was mine, right? But is that how it makes you feel?
Well, it doesn't show up that way. Well, first, it's humbling. It's very humbling because I think, oh my gosh, these people are all unique. How in the world can we get to something that's going to be helpful? But by being vulnerable myself and sharing where I might not be perfect and where we can get better together, other people start taking their armor off and setting it aside. And that's the humbling part. The exhilarating part is, frankly, everybody's making it up, even though we don't want to admit it. And so being in that space where it's okay to do that, amazing possibilities can emerge.
Love it. Amazing audience. Again, you're hearing it live from Chris Hutchinson. You can connect on the Trebuchet group. The link is in there in the show notes, so just click right there. It'll take you to him. Chris, let's switch gears for a moment. Let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Chris,
that sounds amazing. I'm feeling better already.
Chris, what's your earliest childhood memory?
My earliest memory is very fuzzy and black and white, but I was sitting in a small television room in Fort Collins, Colorado, and my parents were around me, and there was such an air of excitement and in a way fear, but just an amazing connection. And I was watching this grainy picture of this man walking down a ladder and stepping onto this black and white fuzzy area, and my parents were saying, remember this is when someone walked on the moon. We have walked on the moon. And it's amazing that the next memory after that, it's like when I was 6 or 7 and hurt myself falling off a ladder, but that thing just sticks out in my mind. And for a long time I wanted to be an astronaut because of that one memory.
If we had to connect what that man was doing as the leader, how would you connect it to who you are today?
I think it's taking those risks and getting out into the unknown and being willing to go first. Going first sometimes is one of the most important things a leader can do, is to be vulnerable and allow other people to see it's okay. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to go into the unknown, and we're going to be all right. So I've never connected this before, but there's a direct connection between those of a leader stepping out. If you remember the Indiana Jones movie where he's supposed to be trusting and he sort of steps into nothing and it turns out it's a bridge. Yes. That's a lot of times what being a leader is about, is being willing to trust that there's something there and that we're doing something important enough that it's worth putting yourself out there.
That's beautiful. Can I add something as well?
Please.
The team that it would have taken to get that one person to that place as well isn't always seen, right? And the leader is seen at that point. But we can definitely put the light back to those individuals that were responsible for everything that was going on, the calculations, the suit that the guy was wearing. It just goes on and goes on. And all
those people were contributing in a way with with a vision of where we were headed, but not knowing exactly how what they were going to do was going to fit into it. They just knew that this was what was needed next, and this is what is needed next, until we have somebody stepping on the moon. Absolutely.
What's really cool too is when we fast forward to when you were 6, that you had an experience where you fell off a ladder and you felt the pain of what another reality of being a leader can be.
When you break your ankle when you're 6 years old, it kind of cements in your memory, and you can think, it was a Kodachrome kind of moment. I was playing in a playground and ended up breaking my ankle, and it was something. I remember that.
It's something that would actually be a good reason not to get onto the ladder again. But but thankfully you did. If we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
My favorite song was the Star Wars music, that the
theme song,
trumpets and the theme song and everything, because that was, again, you can hear a thread of sort of exploring in space, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever to have all that music just pumping out with an experience and a story of transformation and leadership in a way.
Love it, definitely.
Very inspiring.
All right, Chris, well, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. Says yes or no. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Chris, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Yes.
Are you married?
I am married. I've been married for 32 years.
Ooh, wow. Give us a secret, please.
I think it's partnering. I think it's being humble and being willing to look for the best in someone else, and being willing to be okay with your flaws, and expecting that from the other person.
Do you have children?
I have 4 children.
Wow. Do you believe in God?
I believe in God. I don't see it as an entity, more of an energy, and something that's influencing us indirectly all day, every day.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Pretty small. I think they're more around the work I do and the clients that I get to get close to.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
Absolutely not.
How about 3 hours a week?
I have not watched TV for any amount of time significantly for about 26 years.
Wow. What about screen time, the phone and the computer? More than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
I'm probably at about 6 hours a day, because my work is, I have 2 large TV screens that I use as monitors, because I do a lot of work remotely and writing. But I do like movies. I got to say that I'm not completely immune from entertainment, and I'll watch those at 2 hours at a stint.
All right. Chris, well, this has been such a great pleasure. I almost forgot one question, a question that's core to the podcast. If you had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents who you are, Chris Hutchinson, what would you say that is?
I would say that a phrase I coined some years ago is that organizations can go as far as leaders can grow and let go. And as I grow and let go, my organization grows with me, and hopefully others as well.
Amazing. Love it. All right, my friend. Again, this has been such a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
I just appreciate that you're exploring people's uniqueness, because I think it gives every single person the permission to be unique and to find out what within them makes a difference in the world. So thank you for doing this, Angel.
I appreciate that. Thank you as well for bringing that to the stage. I appreciate it tremendously. You're welcome. Chris, again, my friend, a pleasure I will treasure. Thank you for being on what is inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
This segment has been brought to you by Amazel Enterprise.